Okay, we're starting off strong here. Here we go. He's resigning.
That I rise to inform members of my resignation. Woo! House of Commons.
Yep.
It has been my greatest honor as a parliamentarian to have been elected by you, my peers, to serve as the Speaker of the House of Commons for the 43rd and 44th Parliament. I have acted as your humble servant of this House, carrying out the important responsibilities of this position to the very best of my abilities. Je tiens à vous remercier.
I would like to thank you for your support and for your collegiality during my term as Speaker.
This House is above any of us. Therefore, I must step down as your Speaker.
Whoa.
I reiterate my profound regret for my error in recognizing an individual in the House during the joint address to Parliament of President Zelensky.
Bye, Felicia.
That public recognition has caused pain to individuals and communities, including the Jewish community in Canada and around the world, in addition to survivors of Nazi atrocities in Poland, among other nations. I accept full responsibility for my actions. My resignation is effective at the end of the sitting day tomorrow, Wednesday, September 27th, to allow preparations for the election of a new Speaker. Until that time, Deputy Speakers will chair the House proceedings. Thank you. Merci.
Oh! There you go. He's gone. Get out of here. Did not see that coming. So we're going to have a different House Speaker then today. And tomorrow.
We'll take a minute and a half worth of break just to
take a minute and a half.
And maybe.
Woo! Victory! Victory! Congratulations, Canada. We've got a victory. We have accountability. This is amazing. This is incredible. And I just want to remind everybody that you can go to the link in the description, get yourself a I did not see that coming sticker. They are selling like hotcakes. There's limited amount of them. Link is down in the description below and the pinned comment of the live stream. Folks, this is incredible. We have actual accountability now. I hope to...
Statements by members.
Well, they're starting.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough North.
Okay.
Speaker, this year, Taibu Community Health Center in Scarborough North is celebrating its 15th anniversary. Along with health services and programs for local residents, Taibu has a special focus.
I'm so happy.
Needs of the greater.
Could not have started that day off better.
Identifying communities. A key Swahili word, Taibu, is used as a greeting that means to be in good health. It is a mantra that has guided the organization as a source of healing. Taibu heals communities scarred by systemic racism, heals inequalities in Black health outcomes opportunities, and heals individuals through mental health, well-being, and resilience. Over the past 15 years, their dedicated staff and volunteers have engaged in transformative work by incorporating Afrocentric principles and lived experiences in their day-to-day practice. Bravo to Executive Director Lieben Gebri-Mikel, Board President Michel Tremblay, and the entire Taibu team. May you continue to be in good health. Taibu, merci beaucoup.
The Honourable Member for Niagara West. Earlier this month, I had the distinct honor of attending the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce 2023 Outstanding Business Achievement Awards. Each year, the event showcases and celebrates high achievement in Lincoln's business community. Since I was elected back in 2004, this has been one of the most important events on my calendar, and I make it a priority to attend. This year, the ceremony was held at Vienna Estates.
Wow, that was a
140 acres on the edge of the Niagara Escarpment.
That was a pretty over the top start to question period. Question period hasn't even began yet.
The medium size of the year award. Rodney Bierweisen of Sunrise Greenhouses accepted the award for large.
How are we going to top that?
And I want to give a shout out to his father, Robert, who's been a leader in the greenhouse industry in Niagara for over 40 years. And the Community Partnership Award went to Scott Holmes from Niagara Wireless Internet Company, or NWIC. And I would also like to congratulate all those nominated for being excellent examples of success. I look forward to attending next year as we once again celebrate the leadership accomplishments, and resilience of our Lincoln business community.
This is incredible.
Member for Halifax West.
Speaker, I rise to praise a life well lived and loved, to pay tribute to my godfather, Anthony Wadir Metledge, a great man with an unshakable commitment to our family. Born in D-Man and immigrating to Halifax through Pure 21, he was an entrepreneur, a storyteller, a loving husband, father, and grandfather. From my youngest years, I looked up to Uncle Tony. Our families lived together at several points.
Let's try and get some likes going, on the stream. Let's try and get up to like 200-300 likes here.
Considering political life, family members of all ages gathered at his home to share their advice and support. He was sharp until the very end. On his 95th, I presented him with congratulatory certificates from all levels of government, including mine. He shared his unwavering love and vision for myself and Canada. I know he's up there now sharing a drink with my father and their loved ones. This weekend, we gather to commemorate...
Rhoda has officially resigned, yes.
And we know that they will be watching us from above. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, the Trois-Rivières Solidarity Committee is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. The celebrations kicked off on September 11th, a date that refers to the coup d'etat by General Augusto Pinochet in Chile in 1973. At the time, there was a worldwide mobilization to denounce Pinochet's dictatorship. The Quebec-Chile Committee was born, and a few years later that became the Trois-Rivières Solidarity Committee. The committee's mission is to raise awareness and mobilize the public around international issues. Much of its work involves solidarity and international cooperation projects. The committee also provides young people with educational and informational tools to raise their awareness of current global issues. I'd like to salute the work of the entire team, in particular Director Valérie Delage, Board Chair Sarah Bourdage, and the team of volunteers and board members who work tirelessly to build a more just, united, and environmentally friendly world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, today I'd like to pay tribute to a man who left his mark on Canadian political life. I'm talking about Carlo Rossi, the first Italian-born member of Parliament from La Belle Province to sit in the House of Commons of Canada. Mr. Rossi was first elected MP for Bourassa in 1979. He paved the way for Italian Quebecers who followed him into Parliament. During his 3 terms of office, he served as Parliamentary Secretary and Deputy Whip. Previously, he'd been a police officer with the City of Montreal. He was a hostage negotiator. When I became a Canadian citizen at the age of 22, he congratulated me with a certificate that I proudly hung on my office wall. Carlo Rossi also showed me the way before he passed away on April 11, 1998. Mr. Speaker, to honor his memory, I'd like to see his name on a plaque in the riding someday. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for North Okanagan, Shuswap.
The Bush Creek East wildfire in the Shuswap has been burning for 77 days, consuming over 45,000 hectares of forest and destroying hundreds of homes and structures, including homes of firefighters who fought the fire and the volunteer fire hall in Scotch Creek. It continues to burn today. This year, Canada lost 6 wildfire fighters in BC and 2 more in Alberta and the Northwest Territories. We are extremely grateful there were no serious injuries or loss of life to the flames in the Shuswap.
Wow, that was intense, guys.
For an independent review of this year's wildfire responses, and I support that call. Future wildfire responses must be informed by lessons learned. Communities across BC also need action on the findings of previous wildfire reviews. Residents of the North Shuswap are determined to rebuild, determined to recover, and I will continue to work with them and all levels of government as we navigate the road to recovery together. And I call on the Government of Canada to do the same.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener South, Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, Recently, I had the opportunity to participate in the Fire Operations Demonstration Day, hosted by the Kitchener Professional Firefighters Association at their official training site. Along with other local officials, I performed search and rescue in a smoke-filled building, entered a room fully involved with fire, and performed an auto extrication. I wrapped up the day going up in the 100-foot aerial ladder truck. They really put us through our paces, and we now know beyond all doubt why I am an MP instead of a firefighter. Fearless firefighters who put their lives on the line for us every day. Thanks in particular to the dedicated members of KPFA who volunteered their time to prepare the exercises and equipment, gave us the full experience, and kept us safe throughout. Special acknowledgement to Association President Brian Forbes, Fire Chief Bob Gilmore, and my Wrangler, Chris Vogt. What an educational and unforgettable experience.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, today is World Universal Contraception Day. Last week, I hosted an info session about the merits of access to contraception. We were joined by very special speakers, including Dr. Rupinder Kaur from Northeast Calgary, Dr. Wendy Norman, Dr. Amanda Black, Lee Allison Clark, and Frederic Chabot. Thank you for your time, knowledge, and passion. Universal access to contraceptives is about so much more than public health. It's about equity, bodily autonomy, and it's an investment that pays for itself. It also has strong national support, with a recent poll showing that 83% of Canadians approve of free birth control. I was grateful for the chance to learn more about this great proposal, and on this special day, I stand in strong support. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for South Surrey White Rock.
I want to express again my deepest sympathies to the family of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, murdered in June. If proven, the Prime Minister's allegation of a foreign government killing a Canadian on Canadian soil is an outrageous violation of our sovereignty. These allegations must be investigated and justice delivered. Many of our allies already have foreign agent registries. Conservatives introduced 2 bills 2 and 3 years ago to bring in a registry here to include agents from all countries, including India. Both bills were blocked by NDP and Liberals. Conservatives also moved a motion to create a foreign agent registry. On May 4th, 2023, all 4 Liberal members from Surrey voted against it, including the members from Surrey Centre and Surrey Newton. I'm calling on Liberals and NDP to take the threat of foreign interference seriously, act with urgency, and pass a foreign agency registry into law immediately.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, last Wednesday, we hosted an epic match of cricket at the Rideau Hall Cricket Grounds between the Commonwealth Diplomatic Corps and Canadian parliamentarians. It was a thrilling showdown between High Commissions and Canadian members of Parliament. Canada won. This match of cricket not only represented an opportunity to build relationships throughout the Commonwealth, but it also highlighted the growing sport of cricket here in Canada. Many members of Parliament and diplomats played cricket for the very first time last Wednesday. I want to thank everyone from the High Commissions, ministers, members of Parliament who participated in this match and for their support for cricket. Thank you as well to the Rideau Cricket Hall, the Rideau Hall Cricket Association and the Canadian branch for the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association for co-hosting and for promoting the sport of cricket right here in Canada and across the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for
We're going to eat a bunch of crickets.
Today to tell you about the Honourable Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Many know him as the common sense leader this country needs. His school teacher parents know him as the boy they adopted and raised in their modest home in the suburbs of Calgary. Calgary. His dad know him as the son he took to early morning hockey games. His neighbors know him as the boy who used to deliver the morning newspaper. His children know him in French, Spanish, and English as Papa. And I know him as a man who loves Canada and will fight to have it restored before this Liberal NDP government destroys our nation. We all know him as the next Prime Minister of Canada. So when our leader says it doesn't matter who you know or where you're from, but rather who you are and where you're going, these are just not empty words. He lived it. So common sense, let's bring it home. Bring it home.
The honourable member for Calgary Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, after 8 years of this Liberal NDP government, access to housing is worse than ever. In 2015, when Conservatives were in government and the Conservative leader was the Minister of Housing, rent for a one-bedroom apartment was $970 a month. Today, the same apartment is $1,900. A typical family home costs less than $450,000 with a typical mortgage payment of about $1,300. Now, the payment on that same home is over $3,500 and the down payment is doubled. When the Conservative leader was housing minister, the budget was balanced, inflation was 1.4%, and the Bank of...
Holy smokes, guys. These stickers are almost sold out.
After 8 years of this Liberal NDP government,
holy crap.
Inflation is at a 40-year high. The Bank of...
If you guys want to get yourself a sticker,
this Prime Minister...
do it before they all sell out, probably by the end of today, if I'm being totally honest. The links are down in the description and the pinned comment of the live stream.
Longer, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost.
Everyone should go there. This is what it looks like. I did not see that coming.
The honourable member for
Get it before they sell out, folks.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in recognition of the 50th anniversary of Polycultural Immigrant and Community Services. Polycultural started as a group of dedicated volunteers providing boots on the ground to support newly arrived refugees from Poland. They've grown into a multicultural, multifaceted organization with 7 locations across the GTA, helping community members from all walks of life, including newcomers, youth, seniors, and victims of violence. They never shy away from new or challenging...
You ordered the sticker, Farzun?
...with gratitude, the support they
Farzun?
offer Syrian and Afghan refugees
awesome. Thanks for that.
in their greatest time of need. The Polycultural Immigrant and Community Services supports more than 30,000 individuals each year to find jobs and much more, and we're grateful for the work they do. Congratulations to our friends at Polycultural for an amazing 50 years. Thank you for all you do.
Here, here. The honourable member for Churchill, Keewatin-Okaski.
Happened in the House last week was shameful. The introduction of a Nazi as a hero, someone our vets fought against, part of an SS division that massacred Jews and Poles. But what is as shameful is the Prime Minister's failure to rededicate to fighting and calling out fascism and Nazism in our midst. Let us not forget 1.1 million Canadians fought and 97,000 were killed or wounded fighting with our allies to liberate the world from the Nazis. Let us also not forget that we are a country that refused to admit Jewish refugees from Nazism in the 1930s, but admitted SS Nazi combatants in the 1950s.
Break the coalition off, call an election.
The world are seeing the rise of neo-Nazism and fascism. The Prime Minister has failed to speak out. As Santiana said, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. In the name of the victims of Nazism, Jews, Poles, progressives, LGBTQ people, Roma, and millions of others, let us remember, let us learn from history. Never again.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm pleased to mark the 30th anniversary of the Boisbriand Photo Club. Since 1993, this club has been offering a host of activities for learning and sharing knowledge about photography through conferences, outings, competitions, exhibitions, workshops, and much more. As an amateur photographer myself, I was recently blown away by this exceptionally dynamic club where talent, passion, creativity, and a concern for quality abound. Mr. Speaker, I'm not alone in this observation. In 2019, the Boisbriand Photo Club won Quebec's National Museum of Photography's Focus Award for Club of the Year. In 2020, in a field of 44 clubs, it was awarded second best photo club in Quebec at the SPPQ Gala. Congratulations to club president Marc-André Thibodeau and all our members for these achievements. Long live artistic photography and amateur photographers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
After 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, life is so expensive. Chicken is up 35%, potatoes are up 68%, carrots are up 74%, and lettuce is up 94%. No wonder 7 million Canadians struggle to put food on the table. That pain takes a toll. It's due to the costly coalition's policies like the Carbon Tax 1 and the Carbon Tax 2 that hike the cost of everything and do nothing to reduce emissions. Gordy from Collinton says, quote, "My daughter and her husband have 4 kids. Trying to feed them all is a shock. They both have good paying jobs, but by the time you pay for rent, gas, power, and heating, you have to make a choice between eating or paying the bills." Well, that's what happens when you tax the farmer who grows the food and tax the trucker who ships the food and then tax the people who buy the food. Canadians are out of money, and this Prime Minister is just not worth the cost. Conservatives
No, sir.
turn hurt into hope so Canadians can look forward to the future. We'll use technology to reduce emissions and axe the taxes to bring home lower prices and make life affordable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Surrey Centre.
Mr. Speaker, today I speak for the first time as the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defence. Last week, we celebrated National Legion Week for the very first time. Since 1925, the Royal Canadian Legion has been providing support to veterans who have fought for their countries, our values, and our democracy. Through its 1,350 local branches across the country and its promotion of remembrance through the annual Poppy campaign, the Legion is doing what it can to make sure that Canadians never forget. The Legion is also a cornerstone in communities across the country. With one of the largest volunteer bases in the country, they are providing support to veterans and seniors, offering youth sports programs, volunteering to help those in need, or simply offering a place to gather for fun and celebration. I want to express my deep appreciation for all that Legionnaires do and for their tireless efforts to ensure that we remember the bravery, commitment, and sacrifice of those who have served their country. Lest we forget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job. I just want to, before we get started, I just want to make sure that I know there's been some audio issues, like we're not hearing the onlines, and I know that one was pretty low as well. So I just want to make sure the head audio gets pulled up maybe just a little bit. Oral questions, question oral.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition. We got Pierre, we got Melissa, we got Trudeau today.
Le président.
The Liberal Speaker resigned after the massive shame and embarrassment of having recognized a Nazi in the House of Commons.
Let's go, Pierre.
Our international reputation, though, is in the Prime Minister's hands. Diplomatic and intelligence services could have vetted the list of guests. And in fact, that vetting is the Prime Minister's responsibility. Today, the Prime Minister needs to take responsibility in order to reverse the massive damage done to our international reputation. Will he rise in this place and apologize for this massive and shameful failure? The Honourable House Leader. Thank you, Mr.
What?
Speaker.
Where's Trudeau?
First, it is important to highlight that
we did not see that coming.
The House of Commons is independent and elected by all members of this House. I thank the Speaker for taking responsibility for his actions. As I said yesterday, and as he repeated just a few moments ago, it was his decision. He accepts responsibility for it, and I think that was the honourable and the right thing to do. The Honourable Opposition Leader. Yes, but the Prime Minister's intelligence and protocol services had the right to ask for lists of all those who would be recognized. What's more, the responsibility to defend Canada's reputation, that is the Prime Minister's responsibility. We are currently experiencing the worst blow to our reputation in all of our history. So where's the Prime Minister? Where's he hiding? Why won't he rise in the House of Commons to defend Canadians' reputation?
Oh, Trudeau is done.
The honourable members, whether we can, we cannot say whether someone is here.
Shut the hell up, replacement speaker.
We're on that line. Very. House Leader for the government.
You're the second choice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, folks.
The opposition leader knows.
I'm a loose cannon today.
The Speaker of the House resigned today. He accepted responsibility for the decision that he made on his own. He alone decided to invite and recognize that individual. As all members of this House know full well, it was shameful for us as members. It was shameful for Canadians. He took responsibility, and that was the honourable decision.
Trudeau's visiting Auschwitz.
The Liberal Speaker has taken the fall for this massive international shame and embarrassment. But the Prime Minister's protocol and intelligence units had the right to ask for the list of all those who would be present and recognized around a war leader from a country that is trying to defend its freedom from not only an invasion, but a propaganda war. The Prime Minister did not carry out that responsibility, and now our nation's reputation is in tatters. Will he stand up and apologize to Canadians, to the Jewish community, to the Ukrainian people, and to the entire world for this mess that he helped create?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
I feel that I have to remind
everybody that you're a Jewish descendant.
He knows it very well himself, that the Speaker of the House of Commons is independent. He is voted upon by all of the members of Parliament, and he is the Speaker of all parliamentarians. Mr. Speaker, we know, and the leader opposite knows, that this was the decision solely of the Speaker of the House of Commons. He chose to invite this individual. He chose to recognize him without informing the government or the Ukrainian delegation. This was highly embarrassing. I accept his resignation, and I'm glad that he did it.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Minister says he's not responsible for our diplomatic reputation, even though that is precisely the job of the head of government. Like when he says he's not responsible for the inflationary spending that led prices and interest rates to rise faster than at any time in history. He's not responsible for housing costs doubling after he promised to lower them. He's not responsible for dressing up in racist costumes so many times he can't remember. That's all Canadians that needed to learn a lesson from his personal conduct. And now he says he's not responsible to vet the very people that come into contact with a visiting head of state. Is it that he's not responsible or that he's irresponsible?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
I would posit that the Leader of the Opposition is being very irresponsible right now in his accusations, when in fact he knows the truth, and it's why every party in this House has asked for the resignation, which has now been received by the Speaker of the House, because it was his decision and his decision alone to invite this individual and to recognize him in this chamber. The Leader of the Opposition knows this. He is irresponsibly politicizing this issue.
You had a Nazi in Parliament.
An embarrassment to all of Parliament and indeed all of Canadians. And the Speaker did the honourable thing in resigning. Thank you.
And Trudeau should do next and also resign.
Well, I am responsible enough to show up for work, Mr. Speaker.
Oh! Sorry.
I mean this literally.
Sorry.
Has there ever been a greater diplomatic embarrassment in the history of our country? I mean it literally. In coffee shops and gyms and businesses and boardrooms around the world, people are reading about this massive and shameful disgrace that unfolded under the watch of a Liberal Speaker and a Liberal Prime Minister. And yet, he can't even show up for work. Where is he, and why is he hiding under a rock?
He's in Auschwitz! Sorry. Too much coffee, folks. Too much coffee.
Order.
Pierre took a vacation. Trudeau took a vacation. Oh, shit. I can't even talk. I can't even think.
Minutes and see what goes on.
Where is Trudeau? Checking out Anne Frank's house? Like, what's going on?
Are we ready? Okay. Underlining whether someone is here or not is not allowed.
Drop a like on the stream, folks. Hopefully I earned it by now.
House Leader, if she wants to answer it, I'll give her the option.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is precisely why the Speaker of the House announced his resignation, because he took responsibility for his actions that have hurt parliamentarians and have hurt all Canadians and indeed Canada's reputation. That is why every party in this House called for his resignation. But I do find it ironic, Mr. Speaker, that we have barely heard a word of support for Ukraine from the Leader of the Opposition until he sees issue and tries to politicize this issue.
Oh my God, there's going to be a brawl.
A long day, looks like.
Oh, hell yeah, will be. We did not see that coming. Link for stickers, limited amount down in the description, by the way.
Order!
Shut up, Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bellevue.
You're the second choice Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, a question more about substance than style. The official opposition leader and I agree on something which is significant. The Prime Minister is not responsible for the mistake, but he is responsible for fixing it. He is head of state. It's his responsibility. So, does the Prime Minister intend to officially apologize on behalf of Canada and unfortunately still on behalf of Quebec? Does he intend to apologize to all those who suffered as a result of the dramatic and serious event which took place in this place? The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for his question. The Speaker already apologized for the decision that he made. It was a shameful decision for all of us as members and for all Canadians. It was important that he take responsibility for his actions and decisions. Everyone in this House called for his resignation. He did so, and that was the honourable choice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. After 6 questions, it's hard to believe that the Government House Leader hasn't yet understood that the responsibility of the Prime Minister and the responsibility of the House are not one and the same. The Prime Minister needs to assume his responsibilities as head of state, as a head of government. So he needs to apologize to the Jewish community in Quebec, in Canada, and around the world. He needs to apologize to all parliamentarians and to all Canadians. And he must specifically apologize to President Zelensky because this event made him target of Russian propaganda. The Honourable
Russian propaganda, dude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh no, one Nazi came out of Ukraine. Now we're all going to think all of Ukraine is full of
A Canadian.
Oh, wait a second.
Origin. I am the descendant of a Holocaust survivor.
Ah, yes.
This incident hurt me personally, as it hurt all members of this House and all Canadians. The incident also hurt President Zelensky. The Speaker of the House apologized and took responsibility for his decision, which was shameful and painful for us all. He did the responsible thing by resigning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And Trudeau should lead by example.
Yesterday, it was manufacturers' turn to be summoned by the Innovation Minister. The minister knows full well that they have jacked up prices.
You are a coward, Jagmeet. Talk about the Nazi.
Prices. After the meeting, the minister said that inaction is not an option, except that that is exactly what he's been doing for the past 2 years. Will the minister make a commitment to Canadian families? Will he commit to them that their Thanksgiving meal will cost less this year than it did last year?
You are a coward, Jagmeet.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for the question. I'm happy to hear that he also has read that we've said that inaction is not an option. That is why we summoned major grocers in Canada to ask them to stabilize prices in Canada. And I expressed to them the frustration of 40 million Canadians. I told them that the number one issue that matters to Canadians is the cost of living, affordability, and grocery prices. That's why, Mr. Speaker, we tabled Bill C-56, which will address competition because we want more competition.
Did you guys see that too?
And I hope the colleague will support that bill so that we can move forward. Liberal inaction is too costly.
We have in Halifax a very serious situation. People currently living in a camp.
I don't know what happened with that feed, guys.
They'll be homeless when it closes for the season because there's simply nowhere else for them to go. These people have worked hard. They've got jobs. Some live at the campground. Some work there. But there's simply no other housing for them to rent in the surrounding area. They don't have months to wait for the government to approve new housing. They'll be homeless in weeks. This is the result of a prime minister who could have and should have built more affordable housing, but didn't. What will the prime minister tell them when they're homeless in a few weeks?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my honourable colleague the need to continue to invest in affordable housing, including in the city of Halifax, including in my home province of Nova Scotia. I point out to the honourable member right now, as we speak, the City Council in Halifax is actually debating a motion to change the way that they permit homes to be built as a result of the Housing Accelerator Fund that's going to yield more homes for people who live in the city of Halifax. In addition to changing the way cities build homes, we're putting incentives on the table to get more homes built, and we're going to work with jurisdictions that have local authority to figure out how we can continue to increase the affordable housing stock as we have been for the last number of years. I'm going to be pleased to work with my honourable colleague to advance solutions for some of the most vulnerable people in Canada.
Member for Thornhill.
The Speaker of the House took the fall, and the Prime Minister continues
here we go.
to blame everyone else. A full-blown international embarrassment for our country, for our allies, and for everything.
This is the woman that Trudeau called a Nazi.
The Nazis. An actual Nazi invited to the House of Commons, welcomed, and celebrated as a hero. And a government that vetted everyone here. Shame. The PM has called Canadian citizens Nazis. Will he muster the courage and stand up on his feet today and take responsibility?
Yeah!
House leaders.
There we go.
I think we all feel the deep embarrassment and shame of what happened.
And as a descendant of Jewish people,
Anyone in
is that what she's going to say?
known what the Speaker was going to do ahead of time and who this person was, I am certain that not a single person would have stood in this House of Commons. But the fact of the matter is, and my Conservative colleagues know this, that neither the Prime Minister nor the government nor the Ukrainian delegation or any parliamentarian in this place knew ahead of time. It was the Speaker's decision. He's taken responsibility and he has resigned. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And time for Trudeau to follow.
Who is now whispering was louder when she also painted Canadians as Nazis, and she can't bring herself to apologize for an Nazi this government vetted. Even she tried to strike it from the historical record of this House as if it never happened. A descendant of Holocaust survivors distorting the Holocaust. You should be ashamed of yourself. No. How many?
Oh, yes! That was as good as what I thought it was going to be. Oh, drop some W's in the chat for Melissa.
Just a reminder for all questions and comments to be through the chair. The honourable member for Thornhill, you get about 5.
this individual. It was the Speaker who acknowledged that he was going to.
Why does he keep doing that?
In the chamber, no one in this chamber knew ahead of time of who he was. The Speaker has taken full responsibility for this. He has resigned. It was the right thing to do. It was the honorable thing to do, and it is something that had to be.
We got the government of India, the government of Israel. They're all attacking Canada now. They're attacking government servers or something. I don't know what's going on.
The honourable member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Global Affairs, the Privy Council, the Diplomatic Protocol Office, Parliamentary Protective Services, and the RCMP. What do they all have in common? They all have massive resources for vetting visitors to this place. The Prime Minister just threw the Speaker under the bus. But the truth is, stops with him. Allowing a Nazi to be honored in this chamber has embarrassed Canada on the international stage. Shame on him for bringing shame on this chamber. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility, do the right thing, and apologize?
Oh, man!
Government House Leader.
I will remind my Conservative colleagues, because they seem to have forgotten, that they also called on the Speaker's resignation this morning because they recognized that it was actually the Speaker.
And also Trudeau's resignation.
His own. Instead of trying to cast blame where no blame should be cast, the Speaker has taken responsibility for his actions.
Time for Trudeau to take responsibility.
It was the honorable thing to do. It was the right thing to do after a moment in our history on Friday that was deeply embarrassing, deeply shameful for Canadians, and that has hurt all of us as parliamentarians and Canadians.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister and that member tried to bury this sordid affair.
Yeah.
To strike history from the record. For the sake of the 6 million Jews who perished at the hands of the Nazis, Conservatives said no. This affair has resulted in a diplomatic disaster for Canada and gives the Russian government and their illegal invasion a propaganda win. When will the PM stop trying to erase history, take responsibility for once, and apologize?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Took responsibility for his actions, and he apologized. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. It's not enough.
Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I'll share with you a few headlines in media around the world since Friday's event. Deeply hurtful. A Nazi veteran was invited to the Canadian Parliament. Scandal in Canada. Former Nazi fighter in Canadian Parliament. Canada is the laughingstock of the world, the whole world. Will the
fucking rights we are. It's pathetic.
Stand up and apologize, or will he keep hiding? The Honourable Government House Leader. Every member of this House feels that the House Speaker's choice was unforgivable, unacceptable, and shameful to all Canadians. That's why the House Speaker apologized, took responsibility, and resigned. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. There's something the government doesn't seem to understand, Mr. Speaker, and that's that they have a responsibility. In 2015, legislative amendments were made so that the Parliamentary Protective Service...
Just remind her to drop a like on the stream, everyone.
...vetting visitors,
if you haven't yet already,
during the visit of foreign presidents. The Prime Minister was unable to maintain Canada's diplomatic security, so can he stand up in this House as soon as possible to apologize? The Honourable Government House Leader. As I stated yesterday many times, the Parliamentary Protection Service followed all security protocols. The House Speaker was the one who was responsible for this decision to invite and recognize that individual. He apologized, he took responsibility, and he resigned. The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, a wave of bankruptcies awaits our small and medium enterprises if the federal government does not wake up. That's the warning that was issued on the Hill today by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. The government is giving them 18 days to obtain bank loans, but that won't save SMEs that are up to their necks in debt. They have been struggling to repay their emergency account loans for the past 3 years. Unfortunately, what awaits them is bankruptcy. When will the government finally open a direct channel of communication with struggling businesses in order to offer them appropriate payment deferral options? The Honourable Employment Minister. I thank my honourable colleague for her question. About 1 million businesses were able to stay open thanks to this government's measures. We know that there has been rising inflation, there have been supply chain issues, and also the situation in Ukraine. Those are all factors which have been difficult for businesses in Canada. But we will be able to support them to keep their businesses in good standing. We support people in other ways as well, Mr. Speaker. The Canada Child Benefit, the Canada Workers Benefit. We are here for Quebec's businesses, and we will continue to be there for them. The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, our small businesses are not asking for charity. They simply want to avoid bankruptcy while paying back what they owe. The government could sign deferred payment agreements with companies that are struggling without losing any subsidies. That way, the government could avoid closures, avoid job losses, and get back what it is owed instead of losing all of that due to a wave of bankruptcies. When will the government finally realize that being flexible with SMEs is the only fair and responsible way out of this crisis? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, let us be clear and let us look at the facts. We are here to support businesses. We supported them throughout the pandemic. Now we're on the other end of the pandemic, and we've been very clear about what we will do to help businesses which used CEBA. We are there for them, for entrepreneurs, to support them. We supported entrepreneurs, and we will continue to support them. The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, nearly 2,000 SMEs in Quebec have already declared bankruptcy in the past year, and according to...
They just skip over all the stuff that happened, eh? Bloc has no interest in...
...contemplating closing in the next year. The elephant in the room, Mr.
Talking about the Nazi stuff.
...of bankruptcies in Canada are in Quebec, because small business is Quebec's economic model. We're going to have to pay for our entrepreneurial spirit and our support for local entrepreneurs if the government does not show some flexibility. When will the government wake up and stop pushing our SMEs into bankruptcy? The Honourable Employment Minister. Mr. Speaker, before I was in politics, I was an entrepreneur. I know what it's like to have to pay business bills, to make sure that you have enough money to pay your employees. I have a lot of empathy for Quebec's businesses. That's why our government was very clear about its plan to help those repaying CEBA loans. People have up to 3 years to repay the loan, Mr. Speaker. We support businesses and we support entrepreneurs. That's our plan, and we will continue on this same track.
That a member of the Nazi Waffen-SS was invited to attend an event in the House of Commons is appalling. That he was honored during the address of the Ukrainian president is an inexcusable failure for this Liberal government. The Waffen-SS committed numerous atrocities in Poland, and members of the Polish government have now demanded an apology for this international embarrassment. This has become a diplomatic disaster requiring immediate action from the Prime Minister. So will he finally take responsibility, do the right thing, and apologize?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as the member opposite knows full well, it was the Speaker of the House.
It's the Russians, the Indians, or the Jews. I don't know now. Trudeau's pissed everybody off. I got no idea who's attacking us.
Canadian delegation. This has caused enormous hurt to communities across this country, including Polish Canadians. And for that, the Speaker has apologized. He has resigned. That was the right thing to do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chilliwack Hope. Prime Minister and his office, who organized President Zelensky's visit down to the most minute detail, every moment of the visit was planned, and every guest in this House should have been vetted or was vetted by the Prime Minister's office. But somehow, a member of the Nazi Waffen-SS was not only allowed to attend, but was celebrated on the floor of this House. The Prime Minister's office organized the entire event. The Prime Minister's office vetted the entire guest list. So when will he finally take responsibility, come out of hiding, and apologize?
There you go. We all know he's hiding. He's in Parliament right now.
Mr. Speaker, my Conservative colleague opposite continues to spread false information. We know the Speaker has admitted it, he has apologized, and he has resigned because it was he and he alone that invited this individual and recognized him. The guest list was vetted by the Parliamentary Protective Service, who followed all security protocol. The member opposite knows that the Speaker has a speaker gallery to which he invited this individual. No one in this chamber knew ahead of time. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. The Liberal Prime Minister has once again embarrassed all Canadians, and there is outrage around the world. His lack of judgment, his negligence, or simply his incompetence are once again making the news worldwide.
Yeah.
In fact,
making a mockery of our beautiful country.
Reported in the midst of Zelensky's visit to Canada, there was a misguided tribute to a former soldier in a Nazi division. A headline in the Czech Republic, more fuel for the Russians' fire. In Canada, a Nazi veteran was applauded in front of Zelensky. Will the Prime Minister, for once, take responsibility and apologize for hurting Canadians everywhere around the world? The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, all members of this House called for the House Speaker's resignation. We all realized that it was his decision which led to the incident on Friday, which was shameful for us as members of Parliament, shameful for us as Canadians, and just shameful on the whole. So, Mr. Speaker, once again, I call on my Conservative colleagues to depoliticize this issue and to stick to the facts.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. In Finland, it was said the Canadian Parliament made an embarrassing mistake during the Ukrainian president's visit. The guest of honour had served in Nazi Germany. In the Netherlands, it says a standing ovation for a former SS officer in Canada's House of Commons. Washington Post, they've said that a Nazi was honoured in Parliament. The news has circled the globe, and the Liberal Prime Minister who invited President Zelensky...
every country's talking about this.
He is solely and ultimately responsible for this embarrassment and the damage it has done to the Ukrainian people and to Canada's reputation. When will the Prime Minister come out of hiding and apologize?
He's literally hiding in Parliament right now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've already answered this question. The Conservative members know the facts. I would invite them once again to remain on the facts and not say things that are incorrect. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, people are seeing a rising tide of organized hate and hate-related violence. This week, a whites-only Mums and Tots poster was put up at a bus stop.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Community. The residents of Port Moody, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, and Morin Belcarra are outraged.
It's pretty messed up.
The government to take stronger action against hate in their communities, yet the Liberals are nowhere to be found. Will the government listen to Canadians and take concrete action to combat all forms of hate, discrimination, racism, and violence?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
We too are outraged by what we've recently learned.
Hasn't there been some establishments that are like LGBTQ only?
In all
or events at least?
Extremely seriously. We are going to continue to work with local communities on how best to take these concrete action. But make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, we as a government feel that hate has no place in this country, and we will do everything we can to ensure
hate has no place.
Communities remain safe.
Including but not limited to Nazis. Apparently we invite them into Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, Danielle Smith and her Conservative government are threatening to take Albertans out.
You're not allowed to use a federal platform for provincial matters.
Page that directly comes comes from the leader of
No, the speaker should technically cut her
He
off.
said he would cut the
You're not allowed to use a federal platform
need to know.
for provincial matters. It's in the rules.
Of course, we have heard nothing from the Conservative leader of the opposition. Canadians don't want Conservatives risking their pensions. This isn't Smith's money. This isn't the Conservatives' money. This is Canadians' money. Will the Prime Minister do everything he can to protect Albertans and Canadians' pensions from this absurd plan?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Lisa Kudrow.
Government be very clear. Canadians, Albertans value the Canada Pension Plan.
It's not Canadians' money, okay? It's Ukraine's.
Single Albertan that I,
We owe them another paycheck at the end of the year.
including email in my inbox this.
Wow! Who's doing this? Who's doing this? The Russians? The Chinese? The Indians? The Jews? Which country hates Canada the most?
Territories.
Mr. Speaker, this year marked Canada's worst wildfire season on record, especially in the Northwest Territories, with 3 of our 4 largest communities and nearly 70% of our population evacuated. So $28 million recently announced for the NBT by the Government of Canada is very much appreciated. But along with real costs of fighting the fires, the evacuation resulted in many businesses that had to close down for weeks. Can the Minister of Northern Affairs please give an update on our government's plan to support businesses in the Northwest Territories as they get back up and running again after the evacuations? Good question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Northern Affairs.
First of all, I'd like to thank the member for his incredible work in helping his constituents during an unprecedented wildfire season in Northwest Territories. As the member mentioned, our government has been there during the worst of the fires and will continue to be there during the worst of the fires and will continue to be there as the communities continue to bounce back from the wildfires. As Northerners know, small businesses are the backbone of the economy, and I can.
What is happening?
Northwest Territories that more support is on its way.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for South Surrey White Rock.
Global Affairs, the Privy Council, the Diplomatic Protocol Office, the RCMP, what do they all have in common? 1, they have massive resources to vet visitors in this place. 2, they all report to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is trying to shift the blame to the Liberal Speaker, but it's him and him alone that bears the responsibility of a successful state visit. The Prime Minister is in Ottawa today. Will he take responsibility today?
He's not just in Ottawa.
International
He's in Parliament.
Disaster and apologize to Canadians and our allies.
I just want to make a quick comment that the Speaker is just a Speaker. We're not belonging to any party when we're in this position, so I would just...
Except you, Speaker. This guy's a Conservative, or who to be to buy the guy East Coast.
The Honourable Member, the Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This question has been answered several times. The member knows that what she is alleging is not true. The truth of the matter is it was the Speaker who took these actions. It's why he took responsibility. It's why he resigned. And in fact, it's why every member in this House asked for his resignation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Surrey White Rock.
House Leader lost all credibility when she moved to whitewash the official record and asked all of us to pretend that this diplomatic disaster never happened. It did happen. The whole world saw it. It happened under this Prime Minister's watch, and he's refusing to take responsibility. Again, he is in Ottawa today. Will he do the honourable thing, the right thing, stand in his place and apologize?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, the member opposite would know that when egregious acts happen in this place, that they are sometimes struck from the record. In fact, when the member from St. Albert read some very inappropriate remarks into the record, they were struck from the record. Mr. Speaker, that is something that we took seriously. The House decided not to do this. Again, had members in this House been aware of what they were doing at that time, I feel very confident no one would have stood and applauded this individual.
Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, it's not just the reputation of Parliament that has been sullied. It's the reputation of this country on the world stage. This isn't just a parliamentary issue. It's a full-blown diplomatic one. Ian Bremmer of the Eurasia Group said yesterday, this was the worst week for Canadian diplomacy in I can't remember how long. Diplomacy is the responsibility of the Government of Canada. So when will the Prime Minister take responsibility for this diplomatic disaster?
And resign, bucko.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think any member in this House disagrees at how horrific what happened on Friday was. In fact, that's why every single member in this place called for the resignation of the Speaker, because he brought not only shame and embarrassment to this Parliament, but indeed to all Canadians, as I have said several times in this House. That is why he has apologized. It is why he has resigned. And we must move forward, but we recognize the hurt that this has caused to communities across this country as well as around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, the Speaker bears responsibility, but so too does the Prime Minister. It was the Prime Minister in his office that made a decision on short notice to joint address for President Zelensky on the floor of this House. That decision came with consequences. That decision came with responsibilities, some of which we are witnessing around the world today. So again, when will the Prime Minister for once take some responsibility for this diplomatic disaster?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I actually want to acknowledge my honourable colleague because he's the first and only Conservative MP that has actually acknowledged that this was the responsibility of the Speaker, which is why the Speaker took responsibility.
No, PMO's office, Prime Minister's office, and Trudeau are responsible.
I want to thank him.
He's the freaking Prime Minister, man.
The facts, which we haven't heard from most of our Conservative colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Avignon-La-Métis-Matane-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, last week, during the Climate Ambition Summit, we learned of Canada's intention to double oil production in Newfoundland by 2030. Double oil production. The Conservatives even applauded the government yesterday on this subject. Hooray for Canada, a major oil-producing country, as the Minister of the Environment would say. Mr. Speaker, in the fight against climate change, does the Minister of the Environment think it's good news when the Conservatives applaud him? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for her question. Last week, there were two pieces of good news. There are 2 new Canadian sites that will be added to UNESCO's World Heritage Sites, 2 sites. That might not be a good news for the Bloc Québécois. One of them would have been an oil drilling site if it hadn't.
Every time I look at this guy, I just picture him in his orange jumpsuit when he climbed the CN Tower.
Costi is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Honourable Member for Avignon-La-Métis-Matane-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, 2023 is on track to be the hottest year on record. British Columbia, Alberta, the Northwest Territories, Nova Scotia, and Quebec have suffered forest fires on a dramatic, unprecedented scale. Biodiversity is threatened. Oceans are warming to record levels. Yet the Liberal Conservative coalition applauds increased drilling in the Atlantic. Listening to them applaud, you'd think we didn't need to reduce our dependence on oil, we needed to increase production. What will it take for them to realize that they are playing a very dangerous game for humanity? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker.
Let's go, Harry Potsmoker.
Enthusiastic about working with us to fight climate change, things would go even better. But, Mr. Speaker, Canada is the only major oil-producing country to be invited to the Climate Ambition Summit last week. Why? because we have the most ambitious goals to reduce methane emissions, because we are the only G20 country to have eliminated subsidies for fossil fuels. No other G20 country did it. We did it 2 years earlier than expected, and the Prime Minister said we would cap emissions from oil and gas. We are the only country in the world, Mr. Speaker, to have made that commitment.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
These Liberals have embarrassed Canada, insulted the Jewish community, undermined our Ukrainian allies, and disrespected our veterans. And this Prime Minister refuses to accept any responsibility. He's either willfully or ignorantly discarded his duty to protect President Zelensky from this international disaster. Because of his negligence, Liberals have helped fuel Russia's propaganda machine against Ukraine. So will the Prime Minister finally accept responsibility, stand in this House, and apologize to all Canadians and to our Ukrainian allies?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
As my honourable colleague knows, the decision to invite and acknowledge this individual was the Speaker's and the Speaker's alone. For that, he has
PMO vetted.
apologized. For that, he has resigned. Mr. Speaker, this is something that has brought shame and embarrassment to all of us as parliamentarians, indeed to all Canadians. It has hurt Canadian communities across this country, Jewish Canadians, Ukrainian communities, any community that was impacted by the Holocaust. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kildonan, St. Paul.
On Friday, Parliament stood and honoured a Nazi. It is unbelievable that this happened, and the Canadian people deserve to be represented with dignity in this House and on the world stage, and that was taken away from them. The Liberals have so profoundly failed Canadians. This is beyond shameful and embarrassing, and it will never be forgotten. Now the Speaker has resigned, but the Prime Minister bears responsibility. He is in charge. This happened under his watch. Will he finally do the right thing and apologize to Canadians?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Good job, Raquel. Yeah, we love her. God bless Raquel.
I agree with my honourable colleague that
Pregnant woman versus pregnant woman.
because it did bring shame and embarrassment to every single member of this House, as well as every single Canadian. Unfortunately, it was the Speaker and the Speaker alone who chose to invite this individual and acknowledge this individual in the gallery, unbeknownst to any member of Parliament in here, which is why every single member present stood and applauded, because they were led to...
I don't know if people had to pick which pregnant woman they prefer. It wouldn't be the one on screen right now.
It's not the case. The Speaker has taken responsibility and he has resigned.
Kildonan, St. Paul.
There's no more time for Liberal excuses, Mr. Speaker, and more deflections. Canadians deserve far better than that. Friday was supposed to be a day where Canadians and Ukrainians were able to come together and stand against Putin's brutal regime and their illegal, brutal, deadly invasion of Ukraine. The President of Ukraine was in Parliament. The world's eyes were on Canada, but due to Liberal negligence and incompetence, a Nazi was honoured at that time, Mr. Speaker. Canada has been profoundly embarrassed, and there will be lasting international consequences. The Prime Minister cannot escape his responsibility to this House and to Canadians. The buck stops with him, Mr. Speaker. Will he be apologizing to Canada and our world allies, yes or no?
He sure as shit should be.
Again, I would ask my honourable colleagues to please stick to the facts. They all know that this was the decision of the Speaker of the House of Commons to both invite this individual and recognize him without informing a single member of Parliament, the Prime Minister, the government, or the Ukrainian delegation. We all feel completely embarrassed and shamed by this fact. And for this, the Speaker has not only apologized, he has resigned. That was the right thing for him to do after a very horrific incident for all of us.
The Honourable Member for Laval-les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, many people in my riding of Laval-les-Îles have shared with me their concerns about the rising cost of living in terms of food prices and housing costs. Could the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry please inform the House of the steps the government is taking to make life more affordable for Canadians? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, I'd first like to thank the member for Laval-les-Îles for his work. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we know that the people of Laval are focused on the work. We've taken concrete action to help people at a time when the cost of food is the number one issue. Mr. Speaker, this morning I met with major manufacturers to tell them three things. First, to express the frustration people are feeling throughout the country, including the people of Laval, saying that the cost of groceries is the number one issue. Number two, I asked them to be a part of the solution because we all have a role to play to help Canadians during a difficult time. Mr. Speaker, I can assure people that with the member of Laval-les-Îles, we will continue to fight. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Millwoods.
Mr. Speaker, I was honoured to introduce the National Holocaust Monument Bill in this House, which received unanimous support from all parties. This monument helps Canadians learn more about the horrors of the Holocaust. But never did I imagine that in this same House of Commons, a Nazi would be invited and honoured in this place. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister stand up, take responsibility for this massive insult, and apologize to Canadians?
Yeah. Resignation from House Speaker is not enough.
You know, my family walked into Auschwitz and only my grandfather and great uncle walked out. Never in a million years would I have imagined that the Speaker of the House of Commons would invite someone who fought for the Nazis to this place and to recognize him in front of everyone and to ask us all to stand. We all placed our trust in the Speaker. It was broken. We are hurt by this. I personally am incredibly hurt by this because never in my life would I have ever done this had I known otherwise. And I assure you that no other member would have done that either. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Niagara Falls.
Not enough.
Last Friday, as a result of this Prime Minister's inaction, a Nazi veteran was allowed access into this chamber. Although this person was invited by the Speaker, it is the responsibility of the government to organize and ensure the security of foreign dignitaries. Further, both the Prime Minister and this individual were present in the same reception room in West Block after the speeches. There is no way this international embarrassment is solely on the Speaker. This inept Liberal government is responsible as well. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility, do the right thing, and apologize to Canadians?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the allegation that my honourable colleague made is simply false. That did not happen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, what happened Friday is unacceptable. We gave a standing ovation to someone who shouldn't have received one. Canada's reputation has been tarnished around the world. Believe it or not, yesterday the government did something revolting by asking to erase the facts, the truth, and history. What cowardice, Mr. Speaker. To erase history is to condemn ourselves to relive it. It's typical of this cowardly government, which washes its hands of any responsibility. When will the Prime Minister rise in the House and recognize that he made a serious mistake and apologize on behalf of all Canadians to the world? Mr. Speaker, as my honourable colleague knows, when really horrible things happen in this House, in committees, as was the case with the member for St. Albert, who read extremely concerning comments into the record, it was erased. If the House had wanted to do that, why would that have been? Because nobody knew ahead of time what was happening. If they'd known, I'm sure that nobody in this House would have stood to applaud. I'm certain of that.
Mississauga Malton.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Mississauga Malton, I know that people are concerned about crime. And they want to know what our government is doing to make sure that people are safe. This is why I was pleased to see the House unanimously pass Bill C-48 last week, which will help ensure that violent, repeat offenders do not get bail. Can the Minister of Justice tell us more about the progress of this legislation and what the government is doing to improve the safety and communities across Canada? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking my colleague from Mississauga-Malton for that question. And
The Liberal policy is let them out on bail.
offenders don't belong on our streets. Everyone in this chamber agrees on that problem.
Then fix your bail reform, dumbass.
To do in keeping people safe. That's why last week, on the very first day of the House of Commons sitting this fall, we passed our bail reform legislation, our plan for keeping people safe. MPs on that day put politics aside for the safety of Canadians. I'm hoping the Senate will do the exact same and help make this bill become law. We need safe streets in this country. This bill is going to help us get there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, in British Columbia alone, more than 1,600 people have died because of toxic, unregulated drugs since the start of this year. This summer, I traveled to Portugal, where I saw that things could be different. We could have a nationwide evidence-based plan, including decriminalization, harm reduction, treatment, recovery, and prevention services. But the Liberals would rather stand by their patchwork approach that's not working. So will this government right their wrongs by immediately delivering a compassionate and coordinated plan to respond to the toxic drug crisis?
Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from the NDP. The NDP has worked with us in a comprehensive approach, province by province, working with our counterparts to make sure that we are saving lives. Decriminalization in BC was the first step to that, but we need a responsible, compassionate framework that balances public health to public safety. I continue to hope to work with him on this.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West. Investing in clean technology is crucial to the fight against climate change. In that fight, one of Canada's leading agencies, Sustainable Development Technology Canada, has had allegations of wrongdoing with the way they've spent their funding and the way they have treated their staff. It's yet again another example of incompetency. Canadians deserve to know how the government makes decisions on spending for clean technology. The minister needs to release the full report in this House so Canadians can see the transparency they deserve and paid for.
Wouldn't that be something, eh?
Risk their jobs with a minister to do the same thing.
Transparency from the government.
For all of this House and for Canadians. The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Mr. Speaker, there's no point of trying to politicize everything that's happening, Mr. Speaker. The moment that we were alerted of allegation, Mr. Speaker, we asked for a third-party report to investigate and to bring back a report. I can assure the member in this House and all Canadians that we'll look at the report, we'll take all the necessary actions, Mr. Speaker. We expect the highest standards of ethics and professionalism when it comes to agencies that are funded by the Government of Canada. Canadians can be reassured that we'll take all appropriate actions.
And we have for question period today.
And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. What an exciting question period this was. I just want to thank everyone for sticking around. We've got a lot of people watching the stream. We don't have enough likes on the stream to match how many people. So I just want to encourage everyone to drop a like. It's absolutely free. To subscribe, turn those post notifications on, because this is not over. There will be so much pressure on Justin Trudeau to resign and take more full accountability for having a Nazi in Parliament, as well as remind you that the link down in the description and the pinned comment of this live stream to go get your I did not see that coming sticker in the merch shop. And as a special thanks to everyone who is watching this stream right now, if you use code SUNSHINE, you'll get 15% off. Link for this is down in the description below. Get yours. There's only a limited amount. I'm not going to be printing more, folks. So get yours now before they sell out. And they are just like my phone is going off. They're selling out like crazy. So thank you, everybody. I'm very excited to ship them out. I'll be doing that this week with my wife. Thank you for tuning into the stream. Thank you for subscribing and trusting me with delivering you the truth. I will see you all in the next stream, same time tomorrow. Bye. Bye. Oh, man, this is so good. All right. Bye for now.